I've already done the cutting in with the small roller along the top and down the corner. I've done this do along the bottom because the skirting's not on, so I can just roll down as far as I need to go. Along the top there, I'm going to cut the ceiling line back with the white paint once I get to that stage. But this is the second coat. There's going to be 3 coats of paint, so this isn't the last one. But this is just about showing you how to get the wall paint on with a good system so you get a nice finish. So the roller matters a little bit, but not as much as other stuff. Probably like a medium thickness roller is what I like to use on walls because I don't want too much texture. What I like to do is 1 roller full of paint will do roughly like a square metre of area surface. If you're covering more than that, you might be putting it on too thin. If you're covering less than that, you're probably putting it on too thick. So what I do is I do like a metre area, a metre square kind of coverage up high. Then I get another roller full of paint, and then I do the low section underneath it. And I'm overlapping the 2 areas as I go. So I roll up just a little bit higher than I came down with the top one. So you get this kind of overlap in the middle. Once I've rolled the paint off and there's no bits in it, looks fairly good, then I get the roller, I go all the way to the top and then I roll all the way to the bottom. Then I come away from the wall, go back to the top, roll all the way down, and then I go back again and then roll down. And then that way, the texture from the roller is all going in the same direction and you don't get this like heavier overlap in the middle or like a change of direction of the way the light reflects because you've rolled up and down in different directions. And then once I've done that, I just start to repeat the process all the way along the wall, covering around a metre of surface area with each roller. When I overlap at the top, I overlap halfway on. When I am overlapping with the section I've just done, I don't roll all the way back to the beginning, but I just overlap by like a roller sort of thickness worth of paint so that there's no join or no gap as I move along the wall that way. And you can see now that I've got that whole section done from top to bottom. Now I've just done this sort of metre area and then I've got this low part. When I've got the roller loaded up with paint, I don't start to roll and go in and cover the areas as I'm going to be rolling in a minute. What I do is when I've got a roller full of paint, I kind of spread it around in that whole section so that it's not heavier in one spot than another. So from here, I'll probably just start there. I'll just come down at a bit of an angle and then I come back up. And you can see the paint is just kind of spread around in like a bit of an unusual shape. But then from there, it makes it easier for me to start to spread it out because I can roll in any direction. Like I can roll at a bit of an angle. It really doesn't make any difference at this stage. What I want to do at the moment is just spread the paint out. So I can go at it pretty aggressively and just get it spread out, you know, in all sort of different directions. And then once it looks like it's fairly even, then I go back to the top, get a little bit of roll on, and then I roll straight down in a straight line. And then back to the top, and then roll down in a straight line. And then anywhere where I had the roller going at a bit of an angle as I was spreading the paint out, all those sort of angles with the roller, they're gone now because I had laid it off in that straight line. once I get this system going, then I just repeat it all the way along the wall. And it becomes a bit mindless, which is kind of nice when you're doing this work, because I don't have to keep thinking about it all the time about if the paint looks good or if it's covering well. I just follow the system and that sort of takes care of everything. Sometimes the paint doesn't cover very well and I have to do another layer, or sometimes it covers really well and I can do one less coat than I was expecting, but I never really try to adjust how well it's covering by putting on the paint in a different way. It just doesn't really work like that, and if you try and do that, then you're just getting up with a bad finish. For example, like if you're putting the paint on and it's not covering very well, so you just try and roll it on thicker, it's just going to be a horrible finish. If that starts to happen, you're putting the paint on and it's not covering very well, then the only real solution is to do an extra layer. That kind of happened to me yesterday when I was doing this room, and I thought that first layer was going to really cover everything, and then I would just be able to do the filler and then do the second layer and be done. But it really didn't cover very well, so straight away I thought, okay, then it's going to require 3 layers of paint. So now I'm doing the second layer, which is making it look pretty solid, and then I'll do any sort of filler that I need to do, and then I'll do a 3rd layer. But when I'm doing the layers, in this case it's going to be 3 layers, sometimes maybe it's 2, I just don't adjust the way that I put the paint on. It's literally the same every time. Same thickness, the same system, and the only thing that might change is the amount of coats of paint that it requires to get the finish you want to get. But don't start second guessing or thinking about changing your system. It's just the same thing. You cover the same amount of area, just do the top section, then do a bottom section, and then just go back to the top and then roll it down and lay off the paint in the same direction. And then that way you get like a nice even finish with the roller texture all laying off in the same way, and you get like a fairly even, consistent cover all the way along the wall. And that is it, that is how you paint a wall. I think the main thing really to focus on or think about is that you work in a system, work in sections, and the main thing really to pay attention to is how thick you're going to put the paint on the wall. If you're going to go in either direction, it's probably best to put the paint on too thin, because you can always just do another layer. It's really when people put the paint on too thick that it just ruins the wall, and it's hard to correct that because it just becomes lumpy and you can see the texture, and that's really when it looks bad. So you're better off doing more coats with the paint being thinner than doing less coats and you're putting it on too thick. But that's really what there is to it. That's how to paint a wall. I don't really do that many tutorial videos. I don't really know if that even qualifies as a tutorial. It's just something that I do a lot of, and I find it very easy, it's very simple, and I thought it might be worthwhile because maybe some people struggle with how to do a good job of painting at home and stuff. But that's it. I'm going to get on now and paint the rest of this room, and then get out into the other room and start painting the ceiling.